podcast coming your way, guys. 392 compound episode. Stevesmi here. And the Rixer, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Steve? What's up, guys? How's everybody doing out there?
So, right, we have a special episode today. I came up with the idea. You kind of molded it. We're going to be talking about an 8-week cycle to bulk, 8-week cycle to cut, 8-week cycle to recomp, 8-week cycle for healing and stamina. It's going to be a fun one. What do you think?
I think people are going to enjoy it.
All right, guys. So the first one we're talking about is best 8-week cycle to bulk. So what does that mean to bulk? So Rick, let me ask you straight up. What does bulking mean? We're going to go through each of these. We're going to first discuss
gaining mass. Even if you gain some fat in the process, we don't care. We're gaining mass, size, as much as we can. There is what you can call a lean bulk. There is different little variations. But if we talk about just pure hardcore bulking, it's just you're taking in 2 to 3 grams of protein per pound of body weight if you can take in that much, and carbohydrates, lots of carbs. You're making sure that you have enough protein to build muscle and enough carbs for your body to run and function. And even if you retain some fat, who the fuck we're bulking? Is that what you?
So here's an example of me. I was 7% body fat, and I was like, I want to get big. I don't care if I gain fat. So I went from 7% body fat to 12% body fat in one fucking cycle. And what I would do, I wake up in the morning, I'd eat fucking a burger. I cook a burger. It was a bison burger with Ezekiel bread, lettuce, tomato, etc. And boom, I'd slam that. Then I go to the gym, work out, come home. Guess what I would do? Have another fucking bison burger with Ezekiel bread. Slam that down. I'd eat again 2 hours later, eat again 2 hours later, eat again 2 days later. Fucking throwing so much food at my body. I just wanted to fucking get big, man. I got tired of being skinny. I got tired of being pushed around, I wanted to fucking get strong. I got tired of it, So that's what I did. But I gained a shitload of fat. The cycle I use 500 milligrams a week of sustanon, which is testosterone, 4 esters of testosterone. I use 400 milligrams a week of decadurabolin. And I use 30 milligrams a day of dianabol. So test, deca, debol. Classic, old school, bulking cycle. Put on a shit ton of water. Didn't give a shit. I just wanted to fucking get big. I got tired of being skinny my whole life. I wanted to see what it was like to be big and strong. And that shit worked, man. It worked for me. So that's what I did. I don't recommend anyone do that, because what happens is, I could have fucking approached it a different way. I could have done it the smart way and just put on some good quality mass and not bulk. But again, I was skinny my whole fucking life. I weighed like fucking 112 pounds when I was a freshman in high school. I went out for the football team. They didn't even give me my own locker. I had to share a locker. Okay. I was like the fifth or sixth string player. I couldn't even fucking like put on my shoulder pads without falling over because they were so heavy. My helmet. Dude, I mean, when you've been skinny your whole life, you're like, shit, you want to bulk. So that's what I did. So I've been there, done that, guys. I've been through all this shit. I've cut, I bulked, I recomped, I've done cycles, all kinds of shit. This is why we're doing this podcast, guys, to tell you. But yeah, it fucking worked. I put on like fucking 20, 25 pounds in 12 fucking weeks, but it wasn't good weight. So that's what I did. That was a cycle I ran. And listen, why does it work? Testosterone, lots of water retention, lots of androgens. Dianabol, lots of water retention, lots of androgens. Decadurabolin, great complement. It increases appetite like crazy. When you stack those three together, my appetite, Rick, was insane. I was eating, working out, and shitting for 12 weeks. That was what I was doing, and I fucking got big, man. So if you're a skinny fucking guy and you're sick of being skinny, although I would never recommend doing what I did, it fucking worked for me to get big. What do you got, Rick?
That's a great cycle stack. I would have gone with that as well, but since you got it first, now let me throw a different possibility in the mix. If you have estrogen problems like I do, then a good bulking stack would also be something of the lines of testosterone, high amounts of EQ, and turinabol. You know what I mean? Those three. So those are testosterone. I still agree with. You know, I'm a testosterone guy, Steve. EQ and turinabol. If you go back to some of the episodes way backwards on this podcast, I used to always kind of think that you had to be careful a little bit with EQ aromatizing because it kind of it does. But I'm still learning. And nowadays, I think EQ will either be estrogen neutral or might even, in your case, might even help you fight estrogen a little bit. So you can definitely throw EQ in there. It adds anabolic growth power. It won't increase your chances with estrogen. Same thing with adding some turinabol in there. It's not gonna cause estrogen problems. And then you got testosterone, and with just a slight dose of some Novadex, you can do quite fine on a nice chunky testosterone dose, and just a little bit of Novadex would do you. You will get some of the water retention and some of the good effects from it. So that I just went a little bit of a different direction with it, Steve, because D-ball and test. I mean, it's could cause gynecomastia issues them together. You swap out that D-ball for turinabol for a guy like me that's very prone to gynecomastia. Now you're building something you can feel good about and avoid issues beforehand.
My view is appetite. Like, you want to run stuff that's going to boost your appetite. Man, my appetite was out through the roof on that stack. Through the fucking roof, man. And that's good. The more you eat, the more you're going to gain. That's common sense, obviously, right? So, especially in a short amount of time. Now, over time, you're not going to be able to sustain the kind of food that I was pounding every day. You're not going to be able to sustain that. So it's not going to work over time. But in the short term, for a 12-week cycle, yeah, it's going to work. But Rick, I mean, obviously, if you run another 12-week cycle, you're not going to gain 20, 25 pounds, and then run another 12-week cycle and gain 20, 25 pounds. So after 5 cycles times 20, you're not going to gain 100 pounds after 5 cycles, right? It's called, it's homeostasis. That's just the way our bodies work. So it's not sustainable. Your body will adjust to the amount of calories you're eating. Your body's like a furnace, so it's going to change. But in the short run, it will work. So that's why I say long term, it's not a sound strategy to do any of the stuff we're talking about over the long term. This is a marathon and not a sprint. So with that, we're going to go to the next one. Best 8-week cycle to cut. And so the first one, 8 weeks, I ran a 12-week cycle. Will this work for 8 weeks? Absolutely. After 8 weeks, I was up like 15, 20 pounds. So first off, yes, you can run these long esters for 8 weeks. Granted, you're leaving a lot of gains on the table when you do that, but it's like, who cares? This is the podcast, guys. It's about 8 weeks. So next one is 8 weeks to cut. So, cutting on steroids is a very mythical type of thing to talk about, because steroids weren't designed to burn fat and cut down. Steroids were designed to prevent muscle wasting and help with anemia and help with osteoporosis and these different medical issues. But we as bodybuilders, we use them. We use them for different things, including cutting. So by cutting, obviously for me, it might mean something different to you, Rick, but for me, cutting means you're dropping weight, you're dropping water, you're trying to lose body fat. So on a cut with steroids, you want to use dry compounds. 2 of them right off the bat. Winstrol will dry the crap out of you, and then Masteron will dry and harden you up like never before. So 25 to 50 milligrams a day of Winstrol, 500 milligrams a week of Masteron. For an 8-week cycle, you could do something where you stack those, do Masteron propionate, because Masteron propionate is a shorter ester than the Masteron enanthate. And then you can do something like Primobolan for 500 milligrams a week. Nice thing about Primobolan, I've cut on Primobolan. I've run Primobolan, and I've had people tell me, oh, you look more cut. You look more defined off of Primobolan. That's what Primobolan does. It's an expensive steroid, but it will do that. And then we go back to the same thing. 8 weeks, not a long time. Primobolan is an enanthate ester. Really, with Primobolan, it's not going to kick in for about 5 weeks. I don't mean kick in, but I mean reach peak for 5 weeks because of the 10-day half-life. So you multiply that half-life by 5, you get about 50 days. So 50 days into it is when it's going to peak. So you're like 5 weeks into it, and it's going to start peaking, and then you only got 3 more weeks after that where it's peak levels. Okay, that's fine. You're leaving results on the table. But the bottom line is it works. So simple stat. Guys in the 70s, Arnold, those guys, Frank Zane, those were the steroids they mess with. They mess with the DHT derivative, Proviron. They mess with Primobolan. Okay? These are the steroids they mess with, guys, in those times. It's not a big shocker. It's not a big secret. Those are great for cutting down. Rick, what do you got?
Now, when it comes to bulking, I think it's pretty easy, straightforward. You know, you just want to get a couple of good steroids that work in synergy, stack them deep, and go. When it comes to cutting, I like to have more different things in there and use them at a very conservative dose. So, for example, one of the very things that I would be doing right away is, hold on, give me 1 second. I would definitely, Primobolan is in there. We talked about it 1 or 2 podcasts ago. Primo is in there. I would say 400 mgs of Primo if you can afford it. 300 minimum, 200 really if you're doing a small amount, but definitely 400 mgs of Primo in there. Then you'd wanna throw in there, I would say, I would do about 200 mgs of Masteron, and then about another 100 mgs of Trenbolone. That's some recommended trend for cutting. Absolutely. Only about 100 mgs, maybe 200 if you really like trend and the side effects don't get too bad. But at 100 mgs, that trend, in my opinion, is going to make everything just work so much better. So you got 400 Primo, 200 Masteron, 100 trend, and then you got 300 milligrams left. That's about 40 mgs a day of a good oral. I would even do 20 Anavar, 20 Winstrol, or just 40 Anavar. You could do 40 Winstrol if you're trying to get like show tight and you don't mind having a little bit of like sore joints and a little bit of sore kind of tendons and joints and everything feeling a little bit sore running up to show. I mean, or a photo shoot or something, it's fine. But chances are taking 200 mgs of Masteron with 40 mgs of Winstrol a day, and you're not taking an aromatizing compound, there's a good chance that you might experience some issues with low estrogen, namely, especially Winstrol has been known to have guys get injured in the gym, you know, very strong, but very brittle connective tissues, very brittle tendons and joints and stuff. So I would be careful with that, but chances are I would do just 40 Anavar. If I want to get a chiseler, more drier look that in mind, and I was experienced enough to know how to still work out and not get injured on Winstrol and Masteron without testosterone in there, then that's something else. You could also potentially run the 40, 50 mgs of Winstrol, run 200, maybe 300 of Masteron along with everything else I'm telling you. And if you add an extra 200, 250, 300 mgs of test, it throws you over the 1 milligram that I tell everybody should use. But if you throw in the testosterone in there, then you'll get some more power and you might even out some of the estrogen issues. I couldn't be sure to tell you 100%, but I would, so I mean, it's just, it's just a good one. It's just a good stack. I would just and Primo Bowling, it's in there to help you gain mass on your caloric deficit. Mastron is in there to help you just get drier, just look harder, lose that body fat. You've got the Anavar in there or the Winnie both to just help you really conserve that muscle mass while in a deficit and to just give you that drier look. And just 100 mgs of Trembolone, man. 100 mgs of Trembolone, which I should have mentioned in the last one, because you could throw 100 mgs of Trembolone, 200 mgs of Trembolone in a big bulking cycle with test and EQ and Turinabol and you'll see better results out of everything else. So same here. And GW, definitely Cartering, GW. If you are in 2021 cutting and you're not using Cartering, you're not using GW, then you're missing out on the technology today. Stuff that wasn't available to guys in the 60s or 70s or 80s or 90s. Or GW is the new thing now for cutting. It burns fat like nothing else we've seen. It doesn't affect your testosterone production, so you can run Cartering straight through PCT, after PCT. You can stay on the Cartering for a long time as long as you get good, legitimate Cartering that the guy selling it to you has sent it out for testing, and it's proper, it's good shit. Then you have something going. You be a happy guy. You everything is going to be on the up and up with your cycle. So just throw that Cartering in there. And if you really need a good appetite suppressant, something to help you out, you can grab N2 Burn from my store. That's N, the number 2 Burn. You find it at needtobuildmuscle.com or N, the number 2, B as in boy, M as in Mary, N2BM. That'll be a good appetite suppressant for you to use. I just wouldn't advise anybody mess with clenbuterol, stuff like that. I mean, it's just the juice not worth the squeeze unless you are a competitive guy working with your coach. Your coach has experience with it. You are hardcore enough to accept the long-term side effects, issues with clen. Just don't fucks with it. There's a lot of over-the-counter stuff that'll just help you curb your appetite, give you a little bit more energy in the gym, man. And then the Cartering is not a stimulant, is not an appetite suppressant. It'll help melt body fat. And then on top of that, you got the gosh darn, then you got the steroid stack I just mentioned. So you're good to go. I ranted on that one, Steve.
Next one we're talking about is recomp. Recomping is the ultimate challenge in fitness and in bodybuilding. So with a recomp, what that means is you gain muscle while also losing fat. And some of you out there may never achieve this in your life. Maybe you just don't have the genetics. So this is the challenge, and it's not easy. It's the hardest thing to do in fitness. One of the hardest things to do is to accomplish that. And if it was that easy, everyone would do it. Everyone would be walking around at 6% body fat and 250 pounds of muscle, right? So this is what we all strive to do. And for us, it's a lifetime of a commitment. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So in 8 weeks, how can we recomp? I think the number one steroid to recomp, and this doesn't always work for everybody, but I'm going to go with Trenbolone acetate, Rick. Trenbolone is magic for certain people out there. You take Trenbolone and you rip up and you not only gain a lot of strength, but you gain muscle along with it. So it's one of the most powerful steroids in existence. Of all the main steroids, it's the most powerful one. So an 8-week Tren acetate, let's say 250 milligrams a week, keeping the sides low. Throw in some Masteron, 300 milligrams, 400 milligrams a week of Masteron. You can throw in some Proviron if you want, 25 milligrams of Proviron. Or you can throw an Anavar or even T-Bol in there. And that will give you a tremendous ability to gain the strength and lose muscle and lose fat at the same time. Not muscle, but fat. And it's amazing for that. And of course, when you're on it, you want to be eating good. I'd also run the GW, like Rick mentioned. The GW Cartering would be a fantastic thing to run with it. And I think you can accomplish it, guys. Get your training down, do cardio, as much as you possibly can. It's not easy to do cardio on Tren. Your cardio will suffer on Tren, but you have to try your best to do it. and good things will happen for a lot of you out there. Now, some of you won't be able to cut down on tren. Some of your body is that some people, maybe your genetics are a little different, your body's a little different. You may not be able to cut down. So for those of you who not, you can run something like Anavar for 8 weeks. Run Anavar 60 milligrams a day for 8 weeks. Make sure you're running your liver support, your N2 guard with it, and eat clean, bust your ass in the gym, do a lot of cardio, do a lot of fasting, and you could get results just on the Anavar by itself for 8 weeks. Nothing wrong with that. I've seen people recomp beautifully on Anavar, and the side effects weren't that bad at all. So those are two options. I mean, if it was me, Rick, if you told me, Steve, you have 8 weeks to recomp, pick one steroid for you to do it. I know for me, it would be Anavar. Anavar, fasting, lots of fasting, extremely nutritious eating, GW, 8 weeks. That's it. 20 milligrams a day of the GW, 60 milligrams a day of the Anavar. That's all I would need to recomp. I could definitely recomp on that. It'd be a beautiful stack. How about you?
So when it comes to recomping, I take a little bit of a different approach on it. I don't lean into the steroids that are going to dry you up, or this one for this recomp cycle. I'm not going to lean on the steroids that cause the shift estrogen any which way. So Masteron and Winstrol are out of the question on this one. You got to go heavy on the Primobolan. Primobolan is the one that'll allow you to eat at a caloric deficit and still gain mass. So you got to go heavy on the Primo, 400 to 600 milligrams a week of Primo, no less. You got to add the Trenbolone in there. Yes, 100 to 200 mg of Trenbolone per day. Do that. And then your oral dose. I would suggest go either with 50 to 60 milligrams of Anavar a day. You could do 50, 60, and you could hit that 8 weeks. A couple of times in your lifetime, you can run these orals 8 weeks instead of just the 4 to maybe 6 that we recommend. You run that shit 8 weeks for this one special cycle you're trying to do. I would, if I wanted to go harder, like really recomp, the other recomp steroid that I know works very well for recomping is Superdrol. I would do, in order to be able to stretch this out 8 weeks, I would do 20 mg of Superdrol with 20 mg of Anavar. So the perfect recomp cycle, in my opinion, would be something along the lines of 600 mg of Primobolan, 200 mg of Trenbolone, 20 mg a day of Anavar, and 20 mg a day of Superdrol. Superdrol, it's a little funny running at 8 weeks. Again, Superdrol is heavier on your liver than a lot of these other oral steroids. So if you're doing the Superdrol, maybe taking 1 or 2 weeks in the very middle of it, like doing 3 weeks of Superdrol, getting off the Superdrol for 2 weeks, and then getting back on again for the last 3 weeks might be a good option for you if you're worried about the liver. Definitely use an N2 Guard, my product, my liver support product, N2 Guard. Go to N2Guard.com and get yourself some N2 Guard. Definitely take it along with these orals if you're going to run it for 8 weeks and into post-cycle therapy. But that would be my thing. Now, always with all these cycles, right? You can always throw a little bit of testosterone in the mix. A lot less, 100 something mgs, 200 mgs if you're cutting, 300-400 mgs or something if you're bulking. Again, about 250, 200, 100 even if you're recomping milligrams of testosterone a week. It's not a bad thing. Once you get into the 4 to 6 to 8 week realm, depending on how prone you are to it, you can be suppressing your own testosterone production, and then you don't have the good natural testosterone that your body needs. Your body still needs some of that good natural normal testosterone. These synthetic anabolic steroids are no replacement for your own testosterone when it comes to some of the regular bodily functions that your body needs. They've tried. There've been several, even SARMs and steroids have all made it to trial, as far as to human trials, even looking for a different hormone that can be prescribed to testosterone replacement therapy patients. And you know what? All these years later, testosterone, it's still the preferred hormone for testosterone replacement therapy when he stops making it. So you putting some in your body along with these cycles where you might get suppressed, it's just a good health measure. Now, cutting, again, photo shoot, show, special situation, you might omit the testosterone because although it might help your health and functions and your dick and all that, it might ruin a little bit the look. If you're going with bulking, definitely throw that test in there. If you're going with recomping, why not as a good health measure, especially with that super draw in there, which can get pretty suppressive. So that's it, man. That's my recomp story. Also, GW in the recomp mix as well. Okay, just I toss that shit in there, and I always tell you guys every time I mention SARMs, I tell you this: all these steroids, balling, equipoise, trembolone, this stuff has been around since the 60s. They were approved drugs at some point for humans across different parts of the world. We know with a pretty good amount, a decent amount of certainty, what the long-term effects from these drugs could be or could not be. When it comes to SARMs, GW, Osterin, all this stuff, LGD, YK11, all this stuff, it's only been around the last decade and a half. We don't really know what the long-term effects of this stuff is going to be. Anabar was out in the market for human consumption, being prescribed to people who already made it through human trials. As far back as the 70s, people were getting it from a pharmacy. These SARMs are not. They have not made it through all the human trials. They have not made it into prescription medications for us to even begin to really have a good record of what they do. So it's just a situation to beware. But in the short term now, are they effective? Fuck yeah. GW Cauterine, probably one of the best fat burning drugs I've ever seen. It's just incredible. I mean, GW, throw some human growth hormone in there. GH, good human grade growth hormone in there, into that recomp or that cutting cycle or that bulking cycle if you want. Well, that also works. Different pathway, but it'll help each and every one of your goals, whatever you're trying to do with the steroids. Towards that in there. But yeah, GW definitely for recomping.
Next one we're going to talk about, guys, 8-week cycle for healing and stamina. So the first steroid that comes to my mind for healing would be decadurabolin, or NPP, nandrolone phenylpropionate, which is also nandrolone. Now, nandrolones do have some healing properties. There is some evidence that they help with, things in the body, especially with, healing joints, collagen stuff, ligaments, tendons, stuff like that. There's not enough, though, anecdotal evidence with in the bodybuilding community to show that it actually helps. But some guys, they swear by it. They say that it helps. Now, will it heal the problem? I'm skeptical on that. It's more of a Band-Aid, and then when you stop using it, the problem comes back. So to me, that's not healing it. That's putting a Band-Aid on it. So, in terms of the anecdotal evidence, it's just not there yet. But some guys swear that. So I've heard guys say, "Oh, I'm on TRT and I had a little bit of Deca, 50, 100 milligrams a week of Deca, and it helps my body feel better." So it's one of those things where I believe that there is some evidence that it does help. But if you really think that you can just tear your ACL, blow out your knee, and then just go on a bunch of Deca and it's magically going to heal it, then I think you're in for a rude awakening on that. So within reason, Deca would be the steroid for healing. In terms of stamina, number one, EQ, equipoise. Now, they use equipoise in horse racing today for a reason, because it helps the horses have more endurance running around that track, right? So with people, I've run EQ. The nice thing about EQ, it doesn't give you the pumps, the painful pumps when you're running. It doesn't give you these side effects. It doesn't screw up. It's very, very mild. So it doesn't damage your heart in the process where it makes you slower. And it gives you that raise in red blood cell counts, just like almost all steroids do, but it doesn't give you the side effects that come with all these other steroids, you see? So it's like the perfect combination of your getting that red blood cell count increase without the side effects, without the pumps, without the other issues. So I think EQ is the best one for stamina. 300, 400 milligrams a week would be fantastic for stamina. And then we got SARMs. For healing, Ostarine has been shown to help with healing. Give that one a shot. With stamina, SR9009 would be my choice for stamina. Take 5 to 20 milligrams before your cardio session or your workout, and you'll get a boost. It's a very short half-life. It's a very short peak. So you'll get a nice peak in the drug in your system, and then it comes back down. So that's the difference between SR and GW. GW is more of a sustained, slow rise. Okay, so that's why SR is so much better right before, like an hour, hour and a half before your actual training. Well, GW, you take it just once a day, and it gives you a slow boost over the course of the day versus just a quick spike. So that would be my choice. SR9009 for stamina for 8 weeks. So for healing, Ostarine with MPP for 8 weeks. If you had to pick a steroid, we're just speculating here. And then for stamina, EQ with SR9009, you are on your way to having a kick-ass 8-week cycle on those two fronts, in my opinion. How about you, Rick? What's your opinion on this?
Healing and stamina. Here's what I would go with. About 400 to 500 mgs of test a week, about 200, 300 mgs of DECA per week. That would be my kind of basic healing hormones. I wouldn't do anything that fucks with my estrogen. I'd stay away from pretty much everything else. I would add TB 500 to the mix along with BPC 157. So TB 500 along with BPC 157 would be my thing. I would also add Ostarine. I would also add GW. If I could, I would add S4 to that mix and human growth hormone. And that might sound like a lot, guys, but check it out. 2 steroids, 2 peptides, 2, maybe 3 SARMs, and growth hormone. This is what we're talking about healing, or we're talking about serious stamina. Like you either have something you're trying to bounce back from, or you got something you're trying to fucking win, so some record, maybe a personal record you're trying to break, or you're trying to do something special. So you can take one thing in or out here and there. Maybe take the GW out, won't be as good on stamina, but you take at least one less compound you're dealing with in your body on a day-to-day basis. You can maybe downgrade from good human growth hormone down to, IGF-1 or something, right? Maybe make that swap. TB 500 and BPC 157. I would say if you're healing, do both. If healing is not the main goal, but one, then maybe drop the BPC 157, do the TB 500 on its own. And as far as the steroids go, look, you don't want to do DECA by itself. It'll fuck with your dick. And testosterone is just the natural. Testosterone is the hormone your body has. It's the hormone your body needs. Give it that, plenty of that, right? At about 400, 500, make then throw that kind there. If you're willing to risk your functioning for a little bit while you get healed up, then do a 1-to-1 ratio. Do 250 or 300 mgs of testosterone, and then 250, 300 mgs of DECA or more DECA, 400 DECA, 500 DECA, 250 testosterone. If you're not too worried about your dick going a little bit not so hard for a while you're healing, I don't know. You know what I mean? I've never done that, but it's something to consider and think about, depending. It's a very specific sort of situation, but that would be the stack. And obviously N2 Joint RX, guys, and my product, the one I make, that I sell to you, is the number 2 jointrx.com. Go there. It's my joint support product. Even with all of these different compounds you're you're putting in to help healing and stuff at the joints, at the bones, everywhere. Those compounds themselves don't become part of the structure. They just hit the cells, different receptors in the cells, and tell the cells to begin different repair processes and things a lot faster, maybe, or now at all, which maybe the cell wasn't going to be doing anyway because of the absence of these structures. But now that you bring these in, these growth hormones, these SARMs, you bring them in. Now that cell is trying to prepare, so you need the building blocks available, the stuff that the cells is actually made of, and you need some of the vitamins and minerals that are present during some of these processes to make sure that you are covering any old deficiencies. So N2JointRx.com, that is the joint support product. It has the vitamins and minerals that you need to have on there. Make sure there are no deficiencies, and it has the substrate. It has the building blocks that these structures are made of. So that really rounds out a whole stack, along with these compounds that are there, giving the cells a signal to repair.
I think it sums it up beautifully, Rick. So guys, try these stacks out. Come on the forum, do a log, keep yourself honest. I love logs because they keep you honest, they motivate you, we'll motivate you, and let us know, man. You can kind of track it and see, how you end up doing. So it works out. It works out fantastic, right, Rick? It's a win-win for everybody when you guys talk about it.
That's
So
right. Yep. Come to the forums, evolutionary.org, elitefitness.com, anabolics.com. Come on out, register. Look at the top when you get to the page. Look up top. It says forums. Click there, and then keep looking at the top right. It says register. Register up. Use your email. We'll send you information. We'll really hook it up, guys. Just really come on through. Do the damn thing.
yeah, bro, and you can meet Rick's best friend on there, Body Monster. Rick, one of Rick's best friends on the forum, Body Monster.
Listen, forget Body Monster. Ellen Fit is on the forums. She's taking us on her log through her 30-day process. This girl is incredible. She's posting up recipes. She's posting up pictures of herself making the food, looking incredible. She loves pictures.
Is that one of your friends too?
I don't kiss and tell. Not when you can know the girl. I can't talk. I don't say nothing.
Right. Because a lot of guys on there, are like, oh, will you marry me and stuff? So yeah, you got to check this girl out, guys. You got to go on there. And she's looking
incredible, right?
Looking for an American husband. So maybe one of you can help her with her citizenship. Because Rick doesn't want to do it. So, well, Rick, you're not legal, are you? You're not legal, so Rick can't help her. It wouldn't make any sense. All right, guys.
Listen to this guy.
Listen to this guy. So, guys, listen. Great podcast, guys. Rick, excellent job on these podcasts, buddy. Hopefully we're almost to 400. Hopefully we make it to 1,000 before we both pass away. So we'll get there.
We're due to make it to 1,000, well over 1,000 a year from today. So hopefully we'll be alive a year from today and still working and healthy, man. Jeez.
Well, dude, there's China, apparently they blew up a rocket and it's supposed to crash somewhere on Earth. So hopefully it doesn't crash on us. So hopefully we'll be. You don't watch TV, so you don't know about that, I guess.
I've heard about this. You heard about it? Okay. We're gonna knock it out the sky before it comes down.
Okay. All right, guys. So this is episode 392. We'll talk to you guys next week with another compound episode. Again, guys, come on the forums. We'd love to hear from you. And come on over. Talk to you guys next. Guys, this is the required legal disclaimer. We are only sharing our experience from years of steroid use. We are not doctors, and none of what we say should be regarded as medical advice. Always check with your doctor before taking any drugs or starting any training program.